Boy, oh boy, welcome everybody to Daniel's Downloads, October 30th, 2025. As an initial statement, and I sometimes forget to say this, statements made in this presentation are not meant to treat, cure, or diagnose a disease. And today's topic is neurological and concentration issues on the rise. First off, though, I want to make an announcement for a webinar coming up that is November 19th. For those of you that are just listening in and not live. My dear friend, dear mentor for many, many years, Dr. Jay Dunn, we've worked together for all these years, and I finally got her and Biotics to align, and she's going to do a webinar for us on unlocking the secrets of well-being. I got to minimize this. There we go. Harnessing genetic insights to personalized patient care. Jay Dunn is an absolutely brilliant mind in genetics. And I've done my genetics profile and she's gone over it. And I'm telling you, please, this is kind of, in my opinion, not the new, but the emerging more and more science on our health issues. And so Jay's going to share her insights for a 1 hour webinar on November 19th. So today we're going to talk about neurological issues. And, as I've always said in all of our health issues, there's many layers to that onion of health. Which layer of the onion can we peel and have the most effective um, changes on your patients and your clients? So the onion of cognitive health, and I've listed 4 items we're going to discuss today. And the first 3 you may be very familiar with, but then I'm going to introduce a new product to you towards the end. As always, for all of you that are new or haven't been on in a while, in the chat box, I don't have time to check the chat box in a 35-minute talk. Jacqueline over here is checking that for you. But at the end, I hold a raffle for some free product, and we'll do that in the chat box. But also, for those of you that don't know me, because there's a lot of new names, and I appreciate you all taking the time to listen in. My name is Daniel Benning. I'm from Biotics Research. And as I was talking to Dr. Newman here that's on the class, I started 27 years ago with Biotics Research. So I've been at it a while. My background is a biochemistry nutrition, actually from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I carry a certification in clinical nutrition as well. For many of you that do know me, this is not just sales. This is a passion for me to help educate, share what I've learned. I've had brilliant mentors over the years to share. So that's my goal today. And so kind of peeling the layers of the onions of cognitive health. Who would have thought of DHA? I'm wondering out there. We think of EPA DHA, right? And just last week, I did a podcast for Biotics Research that will come out soon on fish oils. And I brought up a book on DHA. And it got me digging a little bit deeper. And just, this is my new thing lately. Like, 30 years ago when I got into this, a little bit longer than that, we didn't have the science like we have here. So I go to PubMed and I just type in DHA and brain function, and you see my fancy little circles here. That's my real high-tech PowerPoint abilities. But you see the circles here. Look at the uptick in references up to 2025. Look at DHA affects the in brain development and function. All of these references in DHA and brain function. So that's why at Biotics Research we have DHA as a standalone. Look at the numbers in relation to the brain. 40% of the fat in the brain is DHA. All cells contain DHA, but the eyes and the brain are the major concentration. So if you are working in brain health, looking at cognitive decline, cognitive issues, even we're going to talk all age groups today, or you have somebody who has eye issues, excuse me, you have to look at DHA. The brain is fat, and the brain, as I pointed out, is 40% DHA. There are studies on DHA and anxiety, again, a somewhat brain-related issue, improved with DHA supplementation. This comes from a great reference book that I actually had to read for my CCN degree and exam, was called Smart Fats: How Dietary Fats and Oils Affect Mental, Physical, and Emotional Intelligence. A great book. I was referencing that book last week. I'm like, why are we not talking about DHA? I added this to the class. Now, it's not DHEA like we often think of. It is DHA, the fat from fish oil. But we concentrated it on the DHA end for brain health and eye health. Low intake or low brain levels associated with accelerated cognitive decline, dementia, and Alzheimer's. Add this to your arsenal. We're going to show you the numbers on the issues of cognitive decline. In the Framingham study, for those of us that have been around a while, we're familiar with that. Highest levels of plasma DHA had a 47% lower from developing dementia. The brain is fat, if you didn't need another reminder. It's just that we sometimes forget about these foundational nutrients. And I'm guilty of it too. We go to these, we've talked about it many times, these outliers out here when we also need to go to foundation, and the brain is fat. Again, that's from Smart Fat's book. So remember we said we're going to go a couple layers of the onion here. Here's DHA. Now we're going to go into SPMs. Now, we've talked about pro-resolving mediators for a while in the past several lectures. So we're just going to touch on this because if you want more details that maybe if you missed a class, just reach out in the chat box. Let them know you'd like that class. I'll send you that class. I have a YouTube channel. You can go to, is it at Daniel's Downloads? Yep, we've updated that. So at Daniel's Downloads, YouTube channel for all of my past classes. But if you are, and hopefully you are familiar with pro-resolving mediators, we talked about it for pain and inflammation. Biomega SPM is our new product. We've had it for a little while. Sales are off the charts. We're actually grabbing testimonials because the response has been so amazing. I don't like to talk about panaceas. I've never seen that in this industry in all my years. I know, like when I first came out of college, pycnogenol was going to fix everything. It's a great nutrient, but it doesn't fix everything. We're seeing a lot of wonderful response on Biomega SPM. Initially, we think of anti-inflammatory. Well, what's happening in the brain? Inflammation as well. Our standard American diet is highly inflammatory. It just doesn't go to the gut, that inflammation. That inflammation goes everywhere. And yes, it passes the neckline into the brain. We don't think of that very often. We forget that. But we have to remember that and remind our patients, remind our clients that that's what's happening. You eat like junk. What? Gut-brain connection, vagal tone, vagal nerve. We have to work on all of those factors. So taking supplements is helpful, but if we're not eating right, what's going in the mouth, we're not helping the system. I can only do so much. You can only do so much with supplementation. In the industry, pro-resolving mediators have been around a while. But everybody in the market has 3 pro-resolving mediators. We have 7. And by the way, let me clarify. These are the precursors to the pro-resolving mediators. So I get a little lax in my terminology, but in the bottle, no matter who it's from, are the precursors to the pro-resolving mediators. Once they get into the body, they activate 2 pro-resolving mediators. It's a super extraction from fish oil if you're wondering where it's coming from. So look at this topic. We've got DHA. Now we're on pro-resolving mediators, all extracted from fish. So we have 7 pro-resolving precursors, most in the industry versus 3. Look at this study. I know we've touched on it before, but this stuff intrigues me when there's so much material in the literature. The role of specialized pro-resolving mediators in reducing neuroinflammation in neurodegenerative disorders. We've just shared with you just now 2 absolute silver bullets for brain health. And again, just don't think later in years with the aging brain, but think younger in years in the nutrient deficient brain. This book that I was telling you about talked about DHA and fetal brain development. Many of you know this. Like, if the mother wasn't eating enough fats and didn't have these levels, the fetus wasn't getting enough nourishment to the brain. So these are huge factors for brain health in cognition and mental decline through all ages. Just 2 absolute silver bullets for that. Now you're all going to go that know me. Oh God, here he goes again. I know, but I love talking about like I call it the bang for the buck. When we have a nutrient that covers so many bases, and maybe we're not that well schooled on it, so we go to our the things that are comfortable to us off the shelf, the things that we're normally using, but we have to think about the autonomic nervous system. Here we are again with lithium. I'm sorry, everybody, but I had to because this is where the literature sits. Did you know that lithium is going to become a conditional nutrient pretty soon? Meaning the powers that be out there that make these decisions, we know who they are. Uh, but looking at lithium finally to make it a conditional nutrient. I just saw one of the doctors pop up who does a lot of cognitive health things with getting people off their psych meds, uses a lot of lithium. I hope it's okay that I call you out there, doctor, but I just saw you pop on. So, at Biotics Research, we have L-Izyme and L-Izyme Forte. You've heard me talk about it 1,000 times. But look at this literature. Just searching again, PubMed, low dose lithium. 963 results of just references in low dose lithium. There's been a consistent flow since 1964, actually. So it's not like this is a new topic. There's been a consistent flow of references to low dose lithium. Look at beyond its psychiatric use, the benefits of low dose lithium supplementation, the first article that pops up. So be confident, be comfortable in using lithium. Please, please, as I just had a meeting the other week, don't get stuck in the schizophrenia idea. We're way beyond that. We are not lithium carbonate, the schizophrenic drug. This is hydroponically grown lithium into a plant. We tablet the plant, you have food form lithium. It's not even what we've talked about many times is lithium orotate, which is the rest of the supplement industry. In this world of nutrition and supplementation, we all have our niche, okay? And I'm not bad mouthing the other forms. I'm telling you what's absolutely unique about biotics research. And when you look at Townsend Letters 2015, well, let's share it with you. Here it is. A substantial literature also exists to support the use of lithium in broad spectrum of other neurological conditions, including substance abuse, violent and aggressive behavior, ADHD, and cognitive decline. If you're on live and you can see this slide, that is a very powerful slide. And look at the next line. As young as 4 years old. This was from an article in 2015 out of Townsend Letters talking about low dose lithium therapy. Let's just refresh. Sometimes we need to hear that twice. Using it in conditions including substance abuse, violent and aggressive behavior, ADHD, and cognitive decline. Why cognitive decline? Look at the study, 2025. We referenced this last month. Lithium deficiency may spur Alzheimer's. Huge. The study actually used lithium orotate. I am telling you, our freeform lithium has been a massive success, meaning the subjective response we get from people is amazing. Calms people down, slows down that sympathetic drive. But then look at what we're showing you here. Why are we getting this kind of response on low dose lithium? Reducing violent and aggressive behavior, ADHD, 4 years old. Remember, I said we're talking about things here that can bridge all ages. Because I get calls, well, what do you have for the kids? Everything I've just listed. Everything I've just listed. And please, I get on my soapbox here. We've got to treat the kids. You're going to see the numbers. It's sad. So those were my first three to peel the onion. The DHA, the lithium. What else did? Let's go backwards. And the proresolve remediators. So very amazing, powerful foundational nutrients. Lithium is going to become a conditional nutrient. Now let's get into the new component that biotics research is offering you. So you're familiar, we've always talked about Actimate. That's our magnesium glycerophosphate. Well, we're building a suite of them for different applications. This is not to confuse you. This is to help you because God bless you all as being a doctor and a practitioner out there, because when I was doing this 30 years ago, again, the onion wasn't so many layers. Now the onion has a lot more layers to
Hopefully.
peel. So for you as a practitioner, it's like I need more tools in my toolbox. That's what I'm trying to do for you, is show you more tools in your toolbox with those top three. The DHA, who would have thought of that? It's not my first thought line, but then it's like, man, the literature's really solid. SPMs. Oh my gosh, that's an amazing study. Lithium. Hello. Look at all the areas we applied lithium over the years with these classes. Actimeg Neuro. So it's our Actimeg formula, but we added book Bacopa for cognitive performance. Let's go into those details because it's astonishing. I'm super excited about this. Now, as I go through these next slides, the reason I'm going through these is I want you to sit there and think, or have your pen and your paper and think of those clients, those patients that fit this profile. Again, I'm trying to give you tools for your toolbox. And I always try to share with you again, lack of a better term, the bang for the buck. What gives me the most benefit? Because I know about patient compliance, I know about cost. I'm very considerate of that. And so I want you to give things that cover a little bit more broad spectrum, but give you the results you're looking for. So, rising neurological challenges. Look at this. Neurological and concentration problems have increased significantly since 2010. I think we're all pretty much aware of that. We see the turmoil, we see the challenges and needs in people for medication. I have an 18-year-old son. I've watched him grow up in this era of the stresses of school, the stresses of social media, all of those factors. And then we had this virus pop up in the 20s, really changed how people interacted. So, just what we're talking about, young and middle-aged adults, millennials, we have all these names for everybody, age 22 to 37, have the highest level of stress and are the largest group that take products to support mental health. I highlighted that in red. The largest group that take products to support mental health. That's very sad to me that we're stuck in this world. Cognitive decline starts early, detected in people as young as age 45. So we have the mental health spectrum, but then we've got the declining cognitive function as young as 45. I'm way beyond that. I'm doing my best. I'm doing actually everything that's listed here. I just don't preach to you. I'm sorry. Well, I just don't get on my soapbox and not do the stuff I'm talking about. I'm not getting any younger either. And I'm aware of these. I'm aware of my familial, as you are all aware of your familial line of what goes on. So we want to address these issues. Look at seniors. About 20 to 25% of Americans 65 years old or over have mild cognitive impairment, while about 10% have dementia. All right. Take your pen again. You know those people. You know those patients. Think of this suite of what's going to impact them the best, because nobody wants to be in that phase. If you've ever taken care of a parent or a significant other with these issues, it's very sad. It's very challenging for everybody. So be aware there's things we can do to support them, to prevent. So let's look at some of these root causes. I know you know these, but again, it's these foundational components that say, yep, we have this patient, we have this cohort. Look at increase in neurotoxic substance abuse. Remember I said I started some 30 some years ago and how I feel for you all because that layer of the onion is thicker and thicker and more layers. Here's one of them. Look at the chemical uptick. I live in Phoenix. Okay. Get in your car, drive down the 101 and look at the haze of pollution. This is what we're all exposed to. You think this just sits out there? No, it's going in our system, causing all of these neurotoxic effects. Not to be a doomsdayer, but this is the reality. Increase in stress-related nutritional deficiencies. Okay, obviously, this fits the foundation of what we're talking about today. This is a magnesium product. This is a B vitamin product with an herb added in. But you see on social media, everybody talks about magnesium deficiency because it's real. B vitamin deficiency is massive. Years ago, there was a study done using B vitamins 3 times a day, water soluble, so think of that. That's why it was 3 times a day, dramatically decreased the stress response in the work environment. Foundational nutrients. And here we go, last but not least, digital overstimulation and sensory overload. Here it is. It's beeping at me even while I'm talking to all of you, like lining up, and we get, oh, I gotta, who texted me, who called me, whatever it is. We have this at all ages, and please don't tell me, you don't know those patients. We're guilty of it. So today's society demands constant focus, but little rest. We are not getting into parasympathetic. We're not putting the phone away. Some of you are, and I appreciate that you that do all of that. But there's so many layers again that we are not doing, and this is one we are not taking rest. So what's your target patient? Your target patient for Actimeg Neuro is the one that's difficulty with focusing, memory loss, forgetfulness. You can't remember that name or a phone number that you use all the time. It's like, what was that number? I'll be honest with you, it happened to me the other day. I'm like, oh boy, I better get on some Actimeg Neuro. I'm being truthful. My own phone number, because how often do we use it? Everybody's got it in speed dial, right? So think of these little key indicators. It's not going to be a glaring, like, oh my God, this patient. Think of these little key indicators. Stress-induced insomnia. You know those patients. Organizational problems, impulsiveness and hyperactivity. I mean, the list, like, it's not like, again, like I didn't say the SPMs were panacea product. This is not a panacea. It's let's give these people support. Because it's not in, as I said in my podcast last week, it's not in the Dorito bag. The support that we're talking about is not in the Dorito bag. I looked at the label. Okay. It's not in the Frito bag. It's not there. Impulsiveness and hyperactivity, early stage onset dementia. Man. Here you are. This is what Actimeg Neuro label looks like. If you remember, our new labels give you 3 little reminders to your patient, your client, of why you're recommending these. Memory and learning. Oh, okay. That's why the doctor gave these to me. Focus and mental clarity. Brain health. There we go. Okay, now I know why I'm taking this. So you know about the magnesium glycerophosphate from all of our discussions and the B vitamins that are in there. But here's Bocamind, registered product ingredient, patented standardized full spectrum, Bacopa moniri extract. It's a nootropic. Let's go to those details. Actimeg, really briefly, for those of you that are new. Magnesium glycerophosphate, not everybody's talking about it. Biotics research sure is. It's a very unique form of magnesium, does not loosen up the GI, okay? Has a 37% better absorption rate than magnesium glycinate. That's huge. Disassociates once it gets absorbed into the body, disassociates very easily. So you get a large volume of magnesium, but that glycerophosphate carryover here. So here's your magnesium, here's your glycerophosphate. They disassociate very easily. That glycerophosphate carrier has all kinds of uses. Look at phospholipid building block. The glycerophosphate shuttle support. The glycerophosphate shuttle regenerates NAD. Did you hear that? It regenerates NAD. So for people who are doing NAD IV, NAD oral, NAD injection, any of our suite of the Actimeg will help that body regenerate NAD. So what's the Bocamind doing? If you're not familiar, many of you are. I was really pleasantly surprised. What does Bocamind do? So the Boca moniri. Remember, it's an Ayurvedic medical herb that medical practitioners, have been using for over 3,000 years. I have a note over here. It says it's been used as a nerve tonic to improve learning, memory, and concentration, as well as relieve anxiety. Well, let's now, like I said, in our beautiful world of science and nutritional science as it grows, we were immature 30 years ago and called, quacks, and now you can't argue that. I'm a little, passionate, but I'm not a quack because we have sound science. And 27 years in the field of subjective response and seeing people get better, we've got sound science. So feel good about what you do is my point to that. But Bocamind, neuroprotection, reduces oxidative stress in the brain. That's huge. Okay. Serotonin preservation, promotes communication between the neurons. All right. That's important. And then dopamine preservation, inhibits the COMT enzyme, enhances concentration, and productivity. By the way, what else inhibits the COMT enzyme is lithium. And so, why did I promote and really want to talk about Jay Dunn's November 19th webinar on genetics? Because COMT is one of her specialties as well. Everybody talks about it, but we have to look at things of how to affect it. You're seeing Bocamine, lithium does it too. So cognitive function, memory enhancement, focus, and concentration. I'm thinking we can think of this patient profile, right? All right. Look at these studies. I love that now, as I said, the clinical studies are there. The information is there. Bocamine in adults, memory and focus. 98 healthy Australian adults aged 55 years or older. 24% improvement in immediate recall. That's impressive. 22% improvement in delayed recall. 50% reduction in impact of memory disturbances. So throughout the day, what is affecting memory? And then like, oh, where did I put my keys? You know, that kind of stuff. There's that improvement that I'm not losing my keys. 7% improvement in learning. Next study. Bocamine adults for memory improvement. 65 healthy Indian adults ages 50 to 75. 450 milligrams of Bocamine versus a placebo. 450 milligrams is in what is in 3 tablets of the Actimeg Neuro. 3 tablets is a 30-day supply in a bottle, okay? Improvement in visual retention at 22%. 78% improvement in list learning delayed recall. That is a massive response. So you're reading a list. They ask you 5 minutes or 30 minutes later to recall that list. A 78% improvement is huge. We have some amazing, amazing tools in our toolbox to offer these patients. So the key clinical benefits: improves memory and learning, fosters focus and attention. Look at that. Promotes long-term brain health, enhances neuronal energy, builds stress resilience, because when we're cognitively stressed, impaired, declining, it creates a stress response. You've seen these people where they get agitated. If you've ever lost your keys, look at the agitation you get. So you're frustrated that your memory's not doing what you're hoping it will do. So Actimeg Neuro, your retail price, again, I call it, the bang for the buck. There's probably a better term I should come up with, but retail for $41.50 for a 90-day or a 30-day supply. You've got a code here for 10% off your purchase. You know that if you email me, call me, text me, and you want to do 6 or more, I'll give you 20% off your first purchase. So be aware of that. I'm excited about this product. If you do 6 or more and you let me know, I'll send you a stack of patient brochures, which helps the patient understand the need of the product. By the way, the funny thing is, I'm actually drinking Actimeg in here. If you've not done our powders, absolutely brilliant nutrient with the glycerol phosphate for brain function. I'm trying to come with my best for you today. You know what I mean? All right. Let's do the raffle quiz. I'm watching my time, being cognizant of your time as well. The first 3 to answer in the chat box win a bottle of Actimeg Neuro. They're not a huge tablet, so don't panic about that. You have here's your ingredient list. You have your activated Bs, your thiamine. I'm just allowing the new people to get to the chat box. You have your thiamine B6, your methylfolate, and then your magnesium glycerol phosphate. And then you have 450 milligrams of the Bacopa, Bacomine is the trademark product. And then you have 85 milligrams of organic beet, which is helps with neural because of the nitric oxide production to get blood flow to the brain. All right, ready? Here's a simple question. Name the patented herb in Actimeg Neuro. Is it Betty Boop? Sorry. Bocamine or barley? Should be pretty easy. This is just a speed test. This is not a delayed recall test at all. Jacqueline's writing down really fast over there. I like to be fair and announce the winners. And then I want to announce my next class, and I'm really excited about that class too. So I hope today that you're going to get these slides, you're going to get a review. And you know what? Instead of just sending out my audio video, I'm going to send out the slide deck so you can go through it slower and to reference the material for your patients and your clients. Because the literature on biomega DHA, the DHA, remember EPA DHA, the concentration of DHA for the brain in the studies are so impressive. The literature on SPMs, precursors to pro-resolving mediators, is overwhelming, and the subjective response is amazing. And then the lithium, we've talked about that 1,000 times, but I'm not going to stop because it's so impressive. And I really feel as a clinician, it's my job to educate and show you and make you feel comfortable with that product. I've had such success over the years in so many avenues. And now the Actimeg Neuro. Who's the winner of the Actimeg Neuro? Nicole, Maya, and Allie. Holy cow. A suite of fast typers. So they obviously are doing very well cognitively too with the quick response. So my next class, and I'm going to read this out to you because this is the huge topic in the industry, creatine, explaining the science and debunking the myths. I gave it that title because, as I always say, and I know all of you go on to social media and your patients do, and they come in with Dr. Google, and well, it does this and it does that, and blah blah blah. We're going to clean that up. We're going to clean that up because it's the story about the application across the lifespan and not just athletics, essentially breaking the limited thoughts that many have about it. Muscle, brain, energy, methylation, all of it. Those are the words of longevity and legitimately what creatine can support. So I hope I will see you on December 18th. We're going to take a little holiday break for in November, and then we'll get a mid-December one in as we launch into the new year. Thank you, all of you, for your time. I'm very honored and humbled that you take the time to listen in. Again, my name is Daniel Benning for the new ones. You have my email in these slides, dbenning, as in Boening at bioticsresearch.com. And my cell phone. You are all welcome to text me at 602-690-9636 with questions, product application, protocols, whatever you want to message me, and I'm happy to answer your questions. We're going to stop the recording right now, and I will open it up to the chat box.